The doors clanged shut behind him, and the air shifted. Inside a correctional facility, routines are everything, and unpredictability is constant. Officers, maintenance staff, program facilitators, nurses, and kitchen crews move through concrete corridors under fluorescent light, maintaining order in an environment charged with tension, noise, and the ever-present risk of escalation. Correctional facilities and security workplaces are built on control. Layers of locks, layers of policy, layers of protocol. Every movement is scheduled, every interaction monitored. But within that structure lies an unpredictable human element. Safety in these settings isn't just about locked gates, surveillance cameras, and reinforced walls. It's about the people navigating that environment day after day. It's about fatigue creeping in after a string of back-to-back shifts. Burnout building up when emotional strain goes unaddressed. Communication breakdowns between teams that pass each other like ships in the night. It's about blind spots, not just in hallways, but in awareness. Failing to notice who's struggling or when procedures quietly erode over time. And it's about those critical moments when misread body language, missed warnings, or unspoken tension can spiral into sudden confrontation. In environments built for control, it's the human variable, subtle, emotional, and often invisible, that pose the greatest challenge to safety. In 2021, a corrections officer in Georgia was stabbed in the shoulder with a sharpened toothbrush during routine cell checks. The incident happened after a staffing shuffle left her alone in a wing that normally required 2 officers. Earlier that shift, a colleague had noticed her discomfort but assumed she'd spoken to the supervisor. That assumption cost her months of recovery. It also led to a critical policy change. Pairing was made mandatory in that wing, regardless of staffing levels. This story is not unusual. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, correctional officers face a higher rate of non-fatal workplace injuries than police officers or firefighters. In a juvenile detention center in the UK, a teacher was knocked unconscious when a student slammed a door into her head during a behavioral outburst. The incident was captured on surveillance footage, but a deeper investigation revealed it wasn't about that moment. It was about all the ones before. The student had shown signs of distress all morning. A different staff member had flagged a rise in agitation during breakfast. A debrief was supposed to happen after a hallway conflict, but it got skipped due to understaffing. The warning signs were visible, but unshared. Observation is often fragmented in these workplaces. Shift changes come fast, sometimes overlapping with little more than a passing nod in the hallway. People cover for each other, stepping into unfamiliar roles with minimal context or handover. Responsibilities blend. 1 minute managing intake, the next assisting with meal distribution or conflict de-escalation. In that kind of environment, even the best intentions can lead to gaps. A subtle behavioral cue noted by one team member might never reach the next. A malfunctioning door, a frayed restraint, or an inmate's shift in demeanor might be observed, but not logged. Without consistent, structured communication systems, insights become siloed. What one person sees becomes another person's blind spot, and in correctional and security settings, those blind spots can be dangerous. In a maximum security prison in Brazil, a kitchen worker was taken hostage when a group of inmates staged a distraction during food service. The plan had been brewing for days, and multiple officers later admitted they'd noticed unusual behavior, whispered conversations, a sudden refusal to eat, increased tension. But no one had put the pieces together. Safety observations aren't just about physical hazards, they're about behavioral intelligence. Security professionals working in non-custodial settings face similar patterns. In a Los Angeles high-rise, a private security guard was struck from behind and knocked unconscious during an overnight shift. The building had recently scaled back to single-person patrols. Earlier that week, he'd flagged a malfunctioning backdoor lock, but the work order was still pending. The attacker had slipped in through that very door. Security often involves lone worker risk, and in many sectors, including healthcare, housing, and retail, security personnel are expected to de-escalate, intervene, and patrol without support. In Johannesburg, a mall security officer responding to a reported disturbance was severely beaten by a group of intoxicated individuals. Surveillance showed he approached them alone with no backup. His radio had died earlier in the shift, and no replacement was available. He had reported it, but it was logged for the next day. That delay nearly cost him his life. Observations in these roles need to be time-sensitive. Delayed fixes can become dangerous gaps. Let's talk about fatigue. In a women's correctional facility in Ontario, an officer made a critical mistake during a lockdown procedure. opening a door that should have remained sealed. No one was injured, but the error exposed systemic issues. She'd worked 10 consecutive shifts due to staffing shortages. Her sleep log, required during a post-incident review, showed irregular rest and high caffeine use. Her supervisor had noted signs of exhaustion 2 days earlier but didn't intervene. Fatigue can erode vigilance, which in a correctional or security setting is everything. In Singapore, a security agency implemented mandatory microbreaks every 2 hours for guards on long shifts. The change came after 2 near-miss incidents involving guards who had nodded off while monitoring surveillance feeds. Since implementing the breaks, attention lapse reports dropped by 40%. Psychological stress is another major hazard. In a Florida youth facility, an officer resigned after being diagnosed with PTSD. His symptoms didn't stem from a single violent incident, but from the accumulation of daily tension, verbal threats, and the constant mental strain of managing volatile environments. He had never reported his symptoms, fearing stigma or reassignment. Co-workers later recalled his growing detachment and hypervigilance, signs they recognized only in hindsight. Safety observations include emotional health. It's not always about someone breaking down or asking for help. Sometimes it's about noticing who's gone quiet, who's withdrawn when they used to engage, who's showing up late, staying distant, or opting out of group conversations. Silence can be a warning sign, not of defiance or disinterest, but of internal struggle. In high-pressure environments like correctional facilities and security roles, emotional injuries often go unseen and unspoken. A shift in demeanor, a change in energy, or a loss of routine interactions may be the only signals something is wrong. Recognizing those moments and responding with care can prevent deeper harm and help someone find their way back to stability. In Stockholm, a private security firm began training supervisors in emotional first aid, recognizing when a worker might be carrying invisible injuries. The program included structured post-incident check-ins and peer support. Within a year, retention rates improved and reports of burnout dropped by 30%. Not all hazards in these settings come from people. Environmental and structural risks also play a role. In India, a prison kitchen worker slipped on a wet floor and sustained a head injury. The floor was known to become slick during cleaning cycles, but no signage was used and mats were overdue for replacement. Staff admitted it had become normal. Normalization of risk is a major barrier to safety observation. In South Korea, a hospital security guard experienced chronic shoulder pain from repeatedly opening a heavy fire door between wings. A simple automatic opener was installed only after a workers' compensation claim forced a review. It had been flagged as a nuisance, but never seen as a safety issue. Safety observations require reframing, recognizing that small discomforts can become big injuries. Let's not forget interpersonal dynamics. In some correctional settings, hierarchy discourages junior staff from speaking up. In a New Mexico prison, a young officer noticed a door latch wasn't catching properly on one of the segregation cells. He didn't report it, unsure if it was worth escalating. A week later, an inmate kicked the door open, injuring another officer. In Tokyo, a security team adopted a shared hazard board, a physical space where any team member could anonymously post a concern. The board was reviewed daily during shift briefings. It allowed quiet voices to be heard without fear. Observation isn't always loud, so what should we be watching for? Officers working alone in high-risk zones, radios with low battery or broken earpieces, slurred speech or slower decision-making, disengaged team members, physical signs of exhaustion, doors that don't latch, lights that don't illuminate blind corners, inmates or clients showing behavior shifts, agitation, withdrawal, silence, staff skipping meals, taking longer breaks or isolating, notes in logs that go unread, conversations that start with, "That's just how we do it." And we must also watch for what's going right. Teams that run mock drills, supervisors who check in after tense shifts, officers who ask their partners how they're doing and wait for the answer, people who flag concerns without being prompted, quiet moments of courage that prevent chaos. Correctional and security work is about vigilance. It's about anticipating danger, controlling the flow of movement, and staying hyper-aware of your surroundings. But that vigilance can't just face outward. It must extend inward, toward our colleagues, our teams, and ourselves. Not just what's happening in the room, but what's happening in each other. Who seems on edge today? Who hasn't spoken in a while? Who's making uncharacteristic mistakes or avoiding interaction altogether? These moments matter, because in high-stress environments where people are trained to stay composed under pressure, it's easy to miss the signs that someone is quietly slipping. True vigilance means keeping an eye on the human experience, on the quiet stress signals and emotional wear that can build up behind a uniform or a composed expression. It means watching each other's backs, not just for threats from the outside, but for signs that someone inside might need help before they ever ask for it. The next time you walk into a secured space, whether it's a prison wing, a mental health facility, a shelter, or a corporate lobby, look around. Notice the exits, the postures, the silences. Because when it comes to safety in these spaces, the difference between control and chaos can be a matter of seconds, or a single unspoken observation. Thank you for watching and welcome to the Safety Smart HQ community. If you've worked in correctional services, private security, or frontline support roles, share your insight in the comments. Your story could make someone else safer tomorrow, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll shift into the next 10 sectors, starting again with the ones too often overlooked. Stay sharp out there.